Hi, I'm Dan Whittaker. Today I'm here to analyse the four swings you're going to see on screen. We've got Hunter Mahan in the top left, we've got Tiger Woods in the top right, we have Sean O'Hare in the bottom left, and we have Stephen Ames in the bottom right. Now, all these four students are coached by Sean Foley. Now, they say that Mahan is the model for what Foley believes in the golf swing. And we're going to see how close all of these guys are to the model that he believes in and subscribes to. Throughout the lesson, we're also going to bring in the swing of Jamie Lovemark and show where he comes in terms of the swing and how close he is in with what Foley believes in and what we see as the key fundamentals in all of the golf swings. We're also then going to have a look in depth at the differences between Mahan and Tiger Woods, as Foley has been heard saying that to Tiger that he should be watching Hunter swing the golf club as he is the perfect model. So without further ado, we'll get on with it. Okay. The only one we've not got an iron swing of is perfectly down the line is Sean O'Hare, but we can still see though that all the guys have got exemplary, fantastic postures. You know, balance points are right over the balls of the feet, arms hanging straight down from shoulder sockets. They all look like they stood to the ball phenomenally well. Now, what we'll do is we'll bring them all to the first move. So we'll take Hunter to the first move here. So return. He's got the club head outside the hands here. Okay, and the club's an extension of his body turn. But the club's moved in, and the club head stayed very low. We see that Sean just tends to extend the hands a little more. There's a bit more rotation in the left wrist. Now, I see Sean being the one out of all the swings, the one not quite adhering to the model in terms of this first move. Because everyone else tends to see the butt of the club quite close to the right thigh. We see the Stephen Ames, and we now see Tiger. Okay, Tiger's toe of the club working up quite steeply, so it's aggressively getting up in the air, whereas Stephen Ames, Hunter Mahan and O'Hare are keeping it a little bit lower. I'm just going to bring another one into the screen here of Mahan, one where we can actually see the perfection of the first move to here. Okay, so you see the toe of the club stays down a little more, and it's opening up a little more than Tiger's. You see that Tiger's actually got his toe of the club is shutting down a little bit here relative to the arc. Okay, whereas we see that Hunter and Stephen Ames both have the club face at 90 degrees to the arc here. They've both also got the right hip and right shoulders turning back in this manner a little more, whereas Tiger's isn't turning back as aggressively in the first move. You'll see I've just brought Jamie Lovemark into the screen on the bottom left hand side, and again we see the butt of the club going in, and he's the one who's closest to Tiger. The toe of the club is more open than we see Tiger's at this point, but we don't see very much right hip turn, and his first move is much closer to what Tiger's is, yet Tiger's got the face shut down a little more. If we take all the guys up to waist high, Tiger's setting the club quite steeply here. He's now open the face, but he's getting it on a very aggressive, steep move. We see that Stephen Ames has got the club go more through the right bicep, and the shaft's a little shallower. Now, this is due to him having more depth in the right hip turn. We get Hunter moved into the position here. His now goes up the right forearm. Shaft is shallower than all of them. His is the shallowest shaft at this point. Okay, so if we were to actually draw some extension lines down the shaft, we see that Hunter's is just to the other side of the golf ball. Tiger's is more in between the feet and the golf ball. Stephen Ames the same, and Jamie Lovemark is exactly the same. Okay, they've all got the golf club quite steep, apart from Hunter, who's got it shallower. Now, According to Sean DVD, he says that he likes to see the golf club at this 9 o'clock position of the left arm parallel to the ground. He likes to see the butt of the club in between the toe line and the ball to target line. We can actually clearly see here that Hunter is going away from this, and if Hunter's the model, it's not matching up with what's been said on the DVD. When we take these swings further on, we take Hunter to the top, we take Tiger to the top, take Stephen Ames to the top, and we take Jamie Lovemark to the top. Jamie's got the shortest, shallowest swing. Well, I think that the arm up here is shallower just purely because it is the shortest golf swing out of all of them. Stephen Ames is actually stacking a little bit on his left hand side here, so his left knee's kicking out to the golf ball, causing that right hit to get a little bit high. As this has happened, the right shoulder's got up high, the elbow is behind him a little more than it is on any of the other players, meaning that there's a lot of daylight between the elbow joint here and the side of the body, right in this area. So if we were to draw this triangle in here, this is the largest area of space we'd find. We don't tend to find much on Tiger or on Hunter's. Mahan's perfectly on plane here. The golf club's almost just an extension of the left arm. Tiger's left arm is a little steeper than Hunter's, whereas Hunter's almost straight across the shoulder plane. He's a little steep a bit, and his left arm is a little bit more bowed, whereas we see Hunter has got the little bit of cup in the left wrist. Just going to quickly bring in Sean O'Hare now, hitting the driver. We see here the halfway point, his shaft is shallow, pointing at an extension to the ball to target line. As he gets to the top, his left arm's steeper, closer to Tiger's, and his elbow is a little more behind him, but he's got a very, very neutral and passive club face at the top of the swing. He's actually in pretty good shape here at the top. We take all these guys now down to halfway down in the transition. We see how everything's fully synced with Mahan, whereas Tiger's is looking, his lower half still jumping out the way here, and his upper half still way close to the target, whereas Hunter, everything's really moving in sync through this transition. We see here with Jamie that he's got the upper half very, very close, but not as an aggressive lower half move as we're seeing with Tiger. When we bring down Sean O'Hare here, we are seeing that at halfway down he's got the arms well in front in the same sort of position, but again his lower half is very, very active. He's not as synced up as Mahan by any stretch. He's more spinny with the lower half if anything, and this upper half's a little bit stuck behind. Now going into the impact area, we bring Mahan in. Okay, we see that right foot's very quiet and is rolling over. We see Sean O'Hare's kind of, because his arms were stuck behind the body because the lower half's been so active, we see this right arm extend away from the body, and the right foot's very much up on the toe. Again, we see with Tiger here that the elbow is behind the body and coming in. That right arm's just having to extend away from the body more than it is doing with Mahan's. And this lower half is a lot more open than the shoulders, whereas Hunter, we're seeing here the upper half and the lower half much more in sync together, whereas Tiger's, we're seeing much more the shoulders more closed than the hips. We tend to see the same here with Jamie Lovemark. When he's coming through, he's working underneath it a lot because the lower half's not as aggressive, the opening as Tiger's, but he's kind of working underneath it, and his upper body's lifting, and he's kind of trunking underneath it to try and create some room. What we then tend to see is, with in terms of the release of the club head with these guys, we see that Sean's arms moves away a bit more, okay, and he's got a bit more of active hands and arms through the ball. Tiger's trying to take it more around here, much more in a Mahan type of release, with the butt working more around, and club trying to stay more passive and perpendicular to the arc. We see that Hunter really just releases it very much around with the body rotation. What we're seeing here is that as Hunter keeps on turning, his arms then extend away from the body and are thrown to the finish, whereas Tiger's he's really trying to keep them both very attached to the body to try and sink the arms and the body up. But it's why we tend to see this kind of funny finish with him, where we find him coming down from the top, coming down around here, very low at the body. But because he's trying to keep this left arm so attached, it's why we're seeing this very low type finish, with the arms almost finishing at the level of the left shoulder. Okay, now we're going to have a look from head left with Hunter and Tiger. Okay, what we're going to see is that from this view, although that Hunter's hitting a driver and Tiger's hitting an iron, we see how much more this left shoulder stretches across. His hips are turning deep. Okay, he's turning into his right side. Whereas what we see with Tiger is he definitely appears that he is much more stacking over this left side, and this right leg's posting up and straightening out a little more. What this is then causing is that the hips are becoming more angular in the backswing right here, as opposed to turning quite as level as Hunters are doing on the left hand screen. This is then making it much easier for Hunter to be able to transfer the weight over the front foot through the shot, so he's then able to get over the left side, and the arms are then brought in front, and then he's able to simply release around. Whereas what we're tending to find with Tiger is, because of this angle, he's in front, then he's backing out of it, and he's working underneath it, so he's in front, his head then goes backwards, we see it against the gallery, his head now goes back, and he's working underneath to try and fight it and find some room through the golf ball, and again it's why we find this unbalanced finish. Now when we have a look at Tiger and Hunter from this front view, we see that Hunter's got a little bit more spine tilt here at address. In other words, his spine's a little bit more angled away from the target, whereas Tiger's a little bit more stacked on top of the golf ball. Now what this serves to do is that when you see Tiger take the club back, he ends up more on top of his left pivot point, more at the top, or more centred, with his right leg a bit straighter and a lot more flex in the left knee. We see Hunter, his left shoulder stretches across a lot more, so we would see more angle between the left hip and the left shoulder in here than we would do with Tiger. Okay, what we then tend to see is that because of this, Hunter's got more weight to be able to transfer across, so we can see difference in the body angles here, whereas Hunter's are stretched across and the left knee's worked in more to the inside of the left foot, whereas Tigers are stacked more over the left side, this kind of way. So what this then transpires to do is that when Tiger comes down, he makes his weight transfer over his left side. He's now way beyond the left pivot point as he's gone down, and he now has to back out of it to strike the ball, to make some room, because he was essentially ahead of the ball. What Hunter does is, because his left shoulder stretched across more, he now is able to transfer the weight over the left pivot point. Okay, so he gets to the outside of it rather than way beyond it that Tiger is, and then he's able to just unwind around it without having to back up with his head and freewheel to the finish, whereas Tiger's having to stand up and fight the club all the way to the finish. Okay, now from a pure front-on view, we see here Hunt's hitting a very long iron and Tiger's hitting a fairway wood, so they're not millions of miles away in terms of what setup would be. But we see how much more stacked over this front foot Tiger appears, whereas Hunter's definitely got more spine tilt and some more weight distributed to the right pivot point at address. Now when we take Tiger to the top of the swing, we see how he's really lowering over this left side, and weight is more over the left pivot point, whereas Hunter is definitely turning into the right side. Okay, so I would say that Hunter's making a very different kind of pivot, or very similar kind of pivot, sorry, to Tiger, but from completely different address angles, where there's more weight set right with more spine tilt. What we see the difference is Tiger gets in front of it, has to then back out of it, and we see this head goes up and back. Hence the reason when he's over this left side why he's hitting quite a lot of pop-up fairway woods, because he's striking down on this fairway wood too much, whereas we see Hunter is coming in from a very different type of angle. We don't see the head back up at all. He gets over the front pivot point, then unwind around it. When we take Jamie Lovemark in here on the right hand screen, and we put him next to Hunter, we take Hunter to the top, and we take Jamie to the top. We see that Jamie's in a similar position to Tiger at the top. He then moves in front and just kind of has to really defend it with his left wrist, kind of, you know, turning down and blocking the face and holding it off a long way through the shot. And he really does hold this off a long way, okay? But he hasn't got anywhere near the speed through the ball that Tiger's got. I see Tiger getting in position that Hunter's in at the top, being much easier for him to repeat and therefore use his natural speed more effectively. Finally, what we're going to do is have a look at Mahan and O'Hare from this side view. You'll see Hunter really turning this right hip back very deep and turning into the right side, where we'd see Sean looking like he's stacking more over the left pivot point. So he definitely not got the arms as in front of the body, because the right elbow is a little bit more behind the hip, whereas Hunter's is more in front of the hip. Okay, and the body positions look quite different, whereas he looks like Sean looks like the left shoulder's going down and like he's getting over this left side, whereas Hunter's letting the left shoulder stretch across more. What we then see happening is, as he makes the weight transfer through, the arms extend more away from the body and the lower half's a bit more spun out. Whereas what we see with Hunter is his left knee rotate over the ankle and everything unwinding through together. Everything's more connected to the body and he's releasing the club more left and around, whereas we see that Sean tends to extend it more down the line here. Okay, there's been recent footage of Sean showing that he's trying to be working on releasing it more like Hunter is, where the shaft's much lower over here coming through the shoulder as opposed to it coming up much higher through the body. We can see that his body, Sean's body kind of stalls out a little here as the arms go, and then it rotates again through to the finish, whereas Hunter's actually, because he is so beautifully synced up, he just keeps turning all the way around to the finish without anything ever having to stall out. The one student we haven't yet is Justin Rose. I'm just going to bring one image of Justin in that I've got, and this is of him doing some pitching work, and you can see here this is him working with Sean Foley on this drill of turning back, turning through, keeping the arms in front of the body, okay? And this is very much kind of a Mahan type release of the butt of the club working around and the club being able to turn around to the finish right here, okay? When we see this release, okay, this is very much what we'd see O'Hare practicing, and we're starting to actually see it transpire in Justin's game, okay? Finally, to finish with, you may all remember seeing something that Sean was working on with Tiger, and holding a club or his hand to the left hand side of his head. We can see Mahan on the right hand screen and Ames on the left hand side of the screen, and we can see how Sean is keeping his hand there to make sure that the head isn't drifting off. And it's obviously a key signature drill that he works on with all of the players. Okay. The one difference I'm seeing is that from the address position that Hunter's in, he's able to wind up over the left side, so bring the left side across into the right pivot point, whereas Tiger's staying more over the left side and then striking down on it a lot more. Hope you've enjoyed this analysis. If you would like to contact me, you can do at Dan Whittaker at btconnect.com. Thanks a lot.